Back in March, you said that if the investigation confirmed the allegations against Governor Cuomo, then he should resign. So will you now call on him to resign, given the investigators said the 11 women were credible?
I stand by that statement.
Are you now calling on him to resign?
Yes.
And if he doesn't resign, do you believe he should be impeached and removed from office?
Let's take one thing at a time here. I think he should resign.
President Joe Biden, obviously the most powerful leader in the world, now the most powerful voice, calling for Governor Andrew Cuomo to leave his job. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jeff Kulikowski.
And I'm Christy Casciano. President Joe Biden, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and Syracuse Mayor Ben Walsh, just some of the leaders calling for the governor to resign tonight.
It is a long list. Just in Onondaga County's Democratic chair, Assemblywoman Pam Hunter wants to initiate articles of impeachment based on today's results of the Attorney General's investigation.
News Channel 9's Andrew Donovan has the report's most serious allegations and how the governor is defending himself.
In their findings, two outside investigators detail the claims of 11 women who say they're victims of Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Some suffered through unwanted touching and grabbing of their most intimate body parts. Others suffered through repeated, offensive, sexually suggestive, or gender-based comments.
Some of the accusers weren't previously known, including a woman from Syracuse, Virginia Limiatis, the local spokesperson for National Grid, who told investigators she greeted the governor in May of 2017.
The governor pressed and ran his fingers across the chest of a woman while reading the name of her company, whose logo was on her chest.
And a New York State trooper protecting the governor.
She told us that she felt completely violated to have the governor touch her, as she put it, between her chest and her privates.
I never touched anyone inappropriately or made inappropriate sexual advances.
In his pre-recorded statement an hour later, the governor specifically clarified accusations made by Charlotte Bennett, a survivor of sexual assault who worked for him last year.
When she confided in the governor that she'd been sexually assaulted in college, he asked her for the details of her assault. When talking about potential girlfriends, he said he thought he could date women as young as 22, knowing that Miss Bennett was 25 at the time. He asked her whether she had ever been with older men.
The governor admitted to asking Bennett questions he typically wouldn't ask, but said her story resonated with his experience, helping a close family member recover from sexual assault trauma.
Charlotte, I want you to know that I am truly and deeply sorry. I brought my personal experience into the workplace, and I shouldn't have done that. I was trying to help. Obviously, I didn't.
If prosecuted, most of the crimes are civil, not criminal. But investigators confirm one claim, revealed earlier this year, has been filed with the Albany Police Department.
On November 16th, 2020, in the executive mansion, the governor hugged executive assistant number 1 and reached under her blouse to grab her breast. This was the culmination of a pattern of inappropriate sexual conduct, including numerous close and intimate hugs, where the governor held her so closely that her breasts were pressed against his body, and he sometimes ran his hands up and down her back while he did so. There were also several occasions on which the governor grabbed her butt.
Let me be clear, that never happened. She wants anonymity, and I respect that. So I am limited but what I can say. But her lawyer has suggested that she will file a legal claim for damages. That will be decided in a court of law.
Cuomo's future as governor will be decided by the legislature and people of New York. In Syracuse, Andrew Donovan, News Channel 9.
Those who insist the AG's report proves Cuomo is unfit to be governor will now focus on impeaching him and removing him from office.
And not a slam dunk by any stretch. Here's Dan Cummings with a look at the process.
The Assembly Judiciary Committee has already opened impeachment hearings. If that committee moves an impeachment resolution to the full Assembly, Here's the process under the state constitution. A majority vote is required of the 150 assembly members. That's 76 votes. But impeachment is just an allegation, the indictment, if you will. If impeached by the assembly, Cuomo would have to step aside temporarily, and Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul would take over as governor while a special impeachment court conducts a trial. That court would be comprised of essentially a 69-person jury, the 7 judges of the state's highest court, the Court of Appeals, and 62 of the 63 members of the state Senate. Majority Leader Andrea Stewart Cousins would be excluded because she would move up and serve as lieutenant governor while Hochul takes over for Cuomo. A 2/3 majority vote of that special court is required to convict the governor. That's 46 votes to convict and remove him from office. Hochul would then serve out the remainder of Andrew Cuomo's term. But first things first, the Assembly Judiciary Committee would need to call more witnesses if needed and conclude the first phase of the impeachment process.